Before we begin the video proper, I want to issue a quick preemptive apology. Recently, I got a new computer, and one of the things I did with this computer is I switched the operating system from Windows to Linux. Now, what that means in regards to my videos is I basically have to find a new editor. On Windows, I had one program that was really great that did everything I needed to do, and there's not a Linux version of it. Well, there is, but that version was designed for one specific distro, and the distro I'm using isn't really compatible with that without some workarounds and some cheats. This tech stuff that I'm not going to get into. So I have to find a new editing software, a new editor, which means I have to learn a new editor. I bring this up because when I did my last video at time of recording, my American Doctor Who fancast exercise, it was brought up that my audio was only coming out of one channel. Because one of the things that would happen is when I'd record in mono, and then in editing, I would convert that audio to stereo. And the new editor I'm learning has a very different method of doing that. So, one of the things I'm doing is I'm trying recording with a different mic for one thing. But yeah, as I figured this out, if you notice the audio in my next few videos is off, or who knows what's going to happen going forward, that is why I have to basically relearn how to do this. With all that said, hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Doctor Who, Season 2, Series 15, Season 40? Nope, that's where I draw the line. But anyway, Ncuti Gatwa's second season as the 15th Doctor. Today we are looking at the season premiere, The Robot Revolution, written by Russell T Davies. As always, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place because I do these unscripted and may decide to talk about spoilers. So if you do not wish to be spoiled, Doctor Who streams in the UK on BBC iPlayer and internationally on Disney+. And I don't really have a lot to say about the Robot Revolution. It's fairly standard. I lean towards positive. I lean towards liking it. It's a decent episode. The problem is there's nothing really standout. Conversely, there's nothing really negative. I have no critiques. I have nothing critical to say about it. Compared to the season premiere of last season, Space Babies, which I did not like at all, this was overall just really solid. And when we're talking, and I've said this before in reviews, when we're talking about something middle of the road like this, it's really difficult to just zero in and talk about it. When something is good or bad, you can talk about what you like, what you didn't like. But when something's middle of the road, when something's just average, there's really nothing to grasp onto, to cling to talk about it. And, well, mostly, there is one really bright spot of this episode that I did thoroughly enjoy. And I don't know if I want to save that for last because it is the pivotal thing this episode is doing. So let's kind of just really sum up what happens really quick, and then we'll get into sort of my thoughts, as rambly as they are. So we're introduced to our new companion, Belinda Chandra, played by Varada Sethu. And don't worry if you didn't catch her name. The episode's gonna make sure you know her name. Anyway, we get a flashback that's not really important right now, but is important in sort of the grand scheme of the episode. That sort of gives... Okay, let's backtrack a little bit and try it this way. Ncuti Gatwa is still really good in this role. He doesn't really bring anything new to the character, at least at this point. But I get what the episode's going for. Gatwa is kind of taking a back seat so that this episode can really introduce Belinda, and I think that is the greatest strength of this episode. Belinda really is the highlight. There's other things going on as well. Like, I really like the aesthetic of this episode, especially the alien world, Miss Belinda Chandra. Although I do think because of, the orange sky and the ball-shaped buildings, it looked a little derivative of how RTD envisions Gallifrey. But I did like the aesthetic of it, the robots, these bright, almost toy-looking things. The fact that the generative AI, more on that, hopefully, is, let's be honest, it's essentially a Power Rangers villain. Or the ultimate reveal of what's inside the generative AI. Ow, that was really horrific and well done. This episode has a really good aesthetic. Like I said, Gatwa takes a back seat in this episode. He's there. He's really just exposition. Like, ultimately, the way this episode plays out, he doesn't contribute a whole lot. So Belinda really gets to take the spotlight here. And if I'm being honest, it's been one episode, but I really like Belinda. I have to admit, I was a little concerned because from the trailers, it was looking like they were setting up a sort of Susan Twist, from the last season, a sort of Susan Twist style mystery box plot, because the trailers made a really big emphasis on how much she looks like Mundi, the character Virata Sethu played last season in Boom. But there's a throwaway line here that Mundi is just Belinda's descendant. I almost said ancestor. That's the opposite of a descendant. So I did like that. There is still, unfortunately, a super special, uber mega important plot device storyline with Belinda. And I just knew who. You gotta stop with that. Really. Please. I hate the companion is super uber mega important plot device storyline that you keep doing. That is one of the reasons I like the Chibnall era so much, because those companions were always just regular people. Please, make companions regular people again. Because that was the norm in New Who, and in Classic Who, but outside of the Chibnall era companions, we only had one companion who was not a plot device. Martha. In the... Dear God, it's been 19 years since New Who started. We've had one companion who was just a normal person. Please, make that happen more often. But anyway, yeah, there is still a mystery box plotline of sorts surrounding Belinda. I believe, we'll see what it actually unfolds to be, but I believe right now it's just going to be called, until we get more developments, again, first episode, it's just going to be called The Swoop. Because it seems like, first of all, someone else pointed that out, I will say that. But, because I thought the whole swoop was a consequence of the climax, when they do what type of paradox is that? I know it's a type of paradox. When two of the same items via time travel make contact, because, time travel narratives make such a big deal of two items of the exact same type that are in the exact same space via time travel cannot make contact with each other. I thought the swoop was a side effect of that, but some people are speculating that, again, the swoop is going to be our season requisite mystery box. I'm going much longer about this than I thought. Point is, I really like Belinda. In fact, I'm tempted to say she might be, and again, in one episode, the impression she left was amazing. She might be my favorite RTD companion. Granted, that's not a high bar. She only has two serious competitors, Donna and Wilf. Rose is my least favorite companion in all of Doctor Who. Martha's okay, but she is severely mistreated by the material, because the show only wanted her to be the Doctor's rebound girl after Rose. Donna's great. Wilf's great. And Ruby's okay. I just don't feel strongly for her either way. But I really, in just one episode, like Belinda. This episode is such a strong introduction for her. We get a really strong sense of who she is as a person, both in the opening flashback and then at her job as a nurse, which I know the Doctor has traveled with other doctors, usually in other fields like Evelyn Smythe, but I don't think the Doctor's ever traveled with a nurse, which, just in the whole history of Doctor Who, why has that not happened? It always seemed so fun to, make the obvious joke, the Doctor and the nurse, but then also it's like, is that because we haven't done it before? Because it was the obvious thing to do? But regardless of that, I like Belinda. I like the sense of who she is as a character. No nonsense, very sort of, not demanding's not the right word, I don't think, but she is very in control, or wants to be in control. She sees something wrong, she takes care of it, which also, again, comes from her experience as a nurse, because, nurses are really the ones responsible for treatment. Doctors make the diagnosis, nurses do all the treatment. I think it was that 70s show where I don't remember, but I think it was that 70s show where Eric sees what his mom puts up with, and he says something like, where am I remembering this from? Because I don't think it was that 70s show, where it's basically like, nurses are responsible for making sure the Doctor doesn't kill you. So just a long-winded way of saying, I like Belinda. I like the play on the fact that the Doctor's companion is a nurse, and so far they have a really good dynamic. I also especially like that, and this comes up in the climax, which is one of the highlights of this episode, that Belinda doesn't seem to want to be a companion. And there's only ever been a handful of companions really like that throughout Doctor Who. And it's always, and we'll see what happens, obviously, but it's always so interesting to get a companion who does not want to be a companion, because it's so different from, the norm for the companion. So I'll be really interested to see how that plays out, because like we have Belinda, and again, first episode, so we know this is not going to be set in stone. We're going to have to see what happens. And then, in Classic Who, we had Tegan, which, I always think about her one of her final lines before she parts ways with the Doctor. It isn't fun anymore. And then in the expanded universe, we had Margaret. So yeah, we have a really strong sense of who Belinda is as a character, and we're doing a very interesting, again, at least at the moment, arc for the companion, someone who does not want to be a companion. Also, in more mystery box stuff, it is interesting to see that, what was I going to say? That something is stopping Belinda from getting back home. Like, after, the Doctor does the usual long way around shtick, and they leave, and after they leave, we see debris floating through space, presumably from a destroyed Earth. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'm assuming that's just season arc stuff. Can't really comment on it right now, so we'll see how it plays out. Mrs. Flood makes an appearance, and I do not care. Russell T. Davies' handling of this plotline is so bad, even by his usual mystery box standards. The Mrs. Flood mystery box is just, he has just whatever potential he had for that arc, whatever he was setting up, he's just kind of, I don't want to say ruined it, that's too strong, but he's just kind of wasted it. Like, every time it shows up, it's like, oh yeah, you're still here. And that's pretty much all it is. It's like, I don't care what you're about anymore. Like, just reveal it already. You're dragging this on way longer than it needs to be. But yeah, I again, don't really have much to say about it. The Robot Revolution is fine. It's a little bit above average. It's got a good aesthetic, fun designs, and it's just but where it really shines is a really good companion introduction and a really great performance from Virata Sethu. But those are just my thoughts. Have you have you seen the Robot Revolution? What are yours? Start a conversation in the comments below, and remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload, and in the description box below you'll find the link to my socials where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.